This is a short revision guide for Section A of Unit 4, the written exam of the Edexcel A-Level Drama and Theatre Studies course. We study Royce check, although this is more about the skills that you will need to help you write the answers for Section A. So it could be applicable for either of the other two texts as well. I want to start off really by clarifying what the actual demands of Section A are. It may be obvious, but it's important just to make sure that you understand that Section A is the rehearsal techniques part of the exam. It is asking you how, as a director, you would communicate your ideas and thoughts to the performers through the rehearsal techniques you'd employed in the rehearsal room. And the key words there are really the performers and rehearsal techniques. Section B is about you as the director and communicating your directorial vision within the context of the question. Section A is asking you about how you would rehearse it. Now, I've heard and read in examiner reports that some of the most successful Section A responses are from those students who have a good understanding and a good vision of where they want the play to go. So the two do kind of influence one another. But in Section A, you do not explicitly talk about your directorial vision like you do in Section B. So when you enter the exam, you will be given a question booklet in which you will need to do your answers in as well, and then you will be given an extract. That extract booklet will have 3 extracts from the 3 set texts. What you need to do is find your extract and then find where that extract is in the copy of the text you are taking into the exam. Once you've done that, put the extract booklet away. You want to work from the exam, the copy of the set text that you are taking in to the exam, because in that set text you are able to annotate all over it to help you prepare for it. Now, this is just recapping, and I hope that by now you have completely and utterly filled up your script with annotations. But here are some key areas which you need to focus on. Firstly, you want to make sure that you've prepared well enough by thinking of a wide variety number of character development exercises, exercises that help you develop backstory for the characters, given circumstances, improvisations, techniques that help you explore relationships both off stage and on stage, vocal and movement activities that explore specific lines or moments of action. Remember, question 1 is always asking you about a specific moment of action and how you would go about rehearsing it. So be prepared to answer questions about specific moments of action. Activities that will help you develop understanding and meaning of the texts, things to do with language and helping understand how you would develop and look at the language that is being used by the characters, and generally exercises, personal exercises that will help you get into character or get the actors into character, things like understanding the motivation, magic if, emotional memory, things like that. Once you've got a good list of rehearsal techniques which you can use, you then want to go in and annotate your script. And you want to annotate every single stage direction there is. You want to be prepared for that first question which will ask you about a specific line and a specific moment of action. So you want to be prepared by having a rehearsal strategy for each and every stage direction. Key moments of dialogue. Make sure there's a rehearsal strategy for that. Make sure there's a rehearsal strategy in place for any duologues or extended speech between 2 or more characters. Specifically, think about moments when key characters meet. Might not be for the first time, might be all the way through the play, but when they meet, how has that relationship changed and moved on, and how can you explore that? And in particular, a really tricky one, but in particular, scene transitions. There have been questions in the past which have focused on how you would rehearse the change between one scene and another. Focus on that. Overall, really, you should have at least 4 or 5 rehearsal techniques, identify different elements of the action for each page, at least, possibly small. Let's take a moment and think about what the 3 questions you're going to be asked in Section A are. You've got a 4-mark question, a 6-mark question, and a 10-mark question, which is a mini essay. Now the suggested paragraph structure is the same all the way through: point, evidence, explain. The point being just one sentence. If it's any more than one sentence, then you are actually making 2 points, and therefore it should be 2 paragraphs. The evidence needs to be at least 2 sentences long, focusing on 2 different things, and then the explanation is at least 3 sentences long. That might be really hard, but by the time you're getting to your 3rd sentence, you're thinking about and creating really in-depth and unusual ideas. In general, question A, which is a 4 mark, is 2 paragraphs, focusing on 1 rehearsal strategy each. Question B is 3 paragraphs, and section C is then again 3 paragraphs at least, but they are different kind of structure to your paragraphs. We'll talk about that in a moment. So let's have a look at some examples of the 4 and 6 mark question first. Here is some questions from Royscheck. The technique I'm going to go through will apply to any questions for the other 2 texts as well. So they are outlined to your performers 2 ways they might explore this particular stage direction. And for question B, you've got to consider 3 appropriate rehearsal techniques you might use to explore the relationship between. First of all, as soon as you get the questions, highlight those key words. So this time it's performers and stage direction. And for question B, it's appropriate rehearsal techniques and explore the relationship. There's 2 reasons why you need to highlight the questions. First of all, you get an idea of what the content is actually supposed to be. So for question 4, you're specifically looking at rehearsal techniques that will be about stage directions. And for question B, you're looking at techniques that are looking at relationships. The second reason is all the way through these questions, use those words. Use the words of the exam question. It helps you to signpost to the examiner that you know what you're talking about. So use the words performers. I would communicate to my performers this particular rehearsal technique to help them develop stage direction. An appropriate rehearsal technique to explore relationships would be this. Use the words of the question to help signpost to the examiner where your answers are. Let's have a look at the assessment objectives for section A as well. They are AO2 and AO3, demonstrating knowledge and understanding of practical and theoretical aspects of drama and theatre using appropriate terminology, and interpret plays from different periods and genres. The key words being knowledge, understanding, practical and theoretical aspects of drama and theatre, and appropriate terminology, bigger one there, and interpreting plays. Now I want you to use these to help you plan out your answers. So we've got some analysis triangles where we've put the question that we're trying to answer in the centre. So outline for your performers 2 ways they might explore the stage direction. He runs back in as the doctor throws the cat to him, which he catches at the start of his extract. So you know that the examiner is looking for 2 rehearsal techniques. So that's going to be 2 paragraphs. We know that he's wanting you to outline it to your performers, so you're going to use that language. And we know that he's looking for something about stage direction. At the same time, we also know that he wants you to demonstrate your knowledge and understanding of practical and theoretical aspects of drama. He's also wanting you to use appropriate terminology, and he also wants you to be able to present some sort of interpretation. So plan your answer in these spaces here about how your answer is going to meet and match those assessment criteria. Once you've planned your answer out, we want to then look about how we're going to use the P structure to write that information down in a format that the examiner is going to be able to read and give you full marks for. So we start with the point, which is quite simple: what rehearsal technique you'd use. It really, as a sentence, is going to be very, very short and no longer than a line. We then move on to thinking about 2 ways or 2 sentences to explain how you'd use it. That sentence could be brought together into a compound sentence using a connective. or you could separate that out into two simple sentences. Then we're going to expand on that even further in our explanation and think about how you'd use it, or why you'd use it even, and what you'd want your performers to learn from it. That's where the big money is. That's where the marks are to be found in that phase there. But if you haven't done the point and the evidence as well, then your explanation is not going to have much depth to it. For the 4-mark question, we're going to do 2 of those paragraphs. For the 6-mark question, we're going to do 3 of those paragraphs. Now, I had a nice diagram which hasn't really transposed very well onto this iPad. But my advice with a 6-mark structure is that you think of it like a funnel. That we start with a really wide, big rehearsals technique up at the top, something to do with, you can just about see it, character development, or something to do with their backstory. Then you move in a little bit closer and you think about something that then develops their relationship, maybe a use of space exercise, so you can explore the character's relationship, and then something even closer, maybe picking up on one particular word or a movement or a stage direction, and how you'd explore that with your actors. So that you have this kind of big to small approach in terms of the way that you're looking at rehearsing your scene. With the 10-mark question, you need to do the same kind of planning. The question here is explain to your performers how you intend to work on exploring verbal communication in this extract, giving reasons for your approach, supported by clear examples. Particular keywords are their performers, so you're still using that terminology, you're still explaining something to your performers. And a little bit about intention, about exploring verbal communication, and giving supported clear examples. So again, you want to use these spaces to plan out how you're going to answer the question, making sure that you at the same time demonstrate your knowledge and understanding of the practical and theoretical aspects of drama, lots of appropriate terminology, and a little bit of interpretation. Once you've done that, then you want to think about how you want to structure that 10-mark question. Now the question for the 10-marker is more fluid than the others, and it's far harder to predict what the question will be, because it will look at the whole of the extract and it will look at something specific. Whereas the other 2 questions are the other way around. So question 1 is a very specific line, but it doesn't tell you how they will particularly want you to explore it. So you need to apply the same ideas using that P structure, but think about what 3 points that you want to make and what evidence you would have to go for that. Now obviously this approach takes a lot of planning as well. So you really want to be able to practice as much as possible before you go into the exam, so that planning doesn't necessarily take too much time. However, I cannot stress the importance of planning your answer before you write it down. A good minute or 2 spent planning each question out and then writing it is far less stressful than writing and planning as you go along. And you are more likely to be able to write in a concise and constructive manner if you plan out what you want to say beforehand. Good luck.